Jimbo Fisher to Texas A&M. While it's not official, many reports are saying that it's a done deal with the Florida State head coach moving on to Kyle Field and College Station. Why would Jimbo Fisher, one of the more successful coaches in college football, 2013 national champion there in Tallahassee, go somewhere else, and go somewhere else that, despite all the fan support, the 12th man, 100,000 people at Kyle Field each and every Saturday night, wins 7 to 8 games per year? Why would he leave Florida State to go into the deep waters of the SEC Western Division? Okay, so the pros for staying at Florida State are obvious. He is a built-in tradition that was built by Bobby Bowden years and years ago. He has already established his own legacy at Florida State. He can rest upon the national championships and the undefeated regular season in 2014 and owning the ACC for a few years. He can rest on that through some down times, and certainly 2017 was a down time for a team that was ranked in the top 3 in the country to start the season. But he has that type of equity. All right. He also has the recruiting base that is arguably the most fertile in college football in the Sunshine State, and he has the #1 program right now in Florida. Miami's coming on. Florida's got a jolt with Dan Mullen coming on the scene, and Central Florida and South Florida can be a little pesky because they can steal a recruit or two because they have built up top 25 type programs as well. So there's enough talent, though, in Florida because it is deeper per capita than anywhere else in the country there in the Sunshine State. So he could stay at Florida State and win at least 10 games per year, contend for the ACC championship on a regular basis, and get to a college football playoff unless Clemson is as dominant and stays as dominant as they have looked over now 3 seasons under Dabo Swinney. So why would Jimbo Fisher go to Texas A&M? We can talk about money, and there have been reports that he's going to be offered at least a 5-year contract at $7.5 million per year. Jimbo Fisher is already paid in the top 5 to 6 coaching range, right there behind Jim Harbaugh, Nick Saban, Urban Meyer, right in that range anyway. So I don't know that money would be a factor unless Texas A&M completely breaks the bank and offers him money that's not been discussed in college football yet, but I believe that they're not going to break the $9 million limit that we see Michigan paying Jim Harbaugh. So it's not necessarily just about the money. Is it about the challenge? I got to think it's about the challenge, and maybe things have grown a bit stale among the Florida State fan base, the alumni, the administration in dealing with Jimbo Fisher. Yes, it's now been since 2014 since he owned the ACC, and minds in college football are rather short. So that seems like a long time ago, and in a sense it was a long time ago. Clemson has owned the ACC now going on 3 years if they complete the ACC championship game run and defeat Miami. Even if they don't, they've knocked off Florida State again this year and own the division. And they are considered now the new elite of college football. Florida State, part of the mid-range elite, not the old elite, but the post-1980 elite Florida State, and that's what Jimbo Fisher has. So what has he done for Florida State lately? Not a whole lot. He's lost to Clemson and been a good program, a top 10-ish type program over the past few seasons in 15 and 16, and now 2017, a complete debacle. And he may see it as a bigger challenge trying to get past Clemson to an ACC championship in college football playoff than it is taking on a new challenge. So maybe things, again, are stale, and we can talk about where the resources, the money, the facilities, and the recruiting base are and compare two schools. We can also compare the two pocketbooks of the universities and how much money they have to pay the coach. What we can't account for are personal feelings, possibly soured relationships, just things growing stale and wanting a new challenge. And it appears as though Jimbo Fisher wants that at Texas A&M. Now, some would argue, as I had a discussion yesterday with Mike McDaniel from inside the ACC, unfortunately the recording did not come through, but It was noted that Texas A&M, though it has its lofty expectations and sees itself as a top-notch college football program, it's not. At its best, it's won 10 games in the past, but mostly over the past decades and decades has been a 7-5, 8-4 program. And even with Kevin Sumlin bursting onto the scene and apparently changing things with Johnny Manziel, it was more Manziel than it was Sumlin, and that proved out over the next few years. Sumlin did bring a bit of swag to the program, a bit of cool to the program, and it lasted for a couple years because it appeared as though that success would last and even build, and that he would challenge Alabama. He was bringing in fringe top 5 classes out of the state of Texas and owning the state of Texas in a recruiting basis over the University of Texas. Few would have thought that would ever happen, but Kevin Sumlin did that for a few years at Texas A&M. But then now there's a different challenge for him, obviously, with Tom Herman in the game, and now he's been ousted because of 8-5, 8-5, 8-5, 8-5 every year. So Jimbo Fisher takes over, apparently, if the reports pull through, and he's now at Texas A&M, and he has quite a challenge of the SEC Western Division. Auburn, LSU, almost always good. Arkansas, Ole Miss, Mississippi State can jump up at times and be top 15 programs at times. Auburn, LSU are 2 of the top 10 to 12 programs in the country. And then there's mighty, mighty Alabama. And maybe that's what Jimbo Fisher needs as a shot in the arm to his competitive nature. He goes to Texas A&M. He's got the recruiting base. The recruiting base has been established as being more Texas A&M than Texas, so maybe he can build on that and also get away from Florida State and show that he can do it in 2 places. The truly great coaches, Nick Saban, Urban Meyer, have done it in multiple places. And for him to show that he can do it at Texas A&M, where they are starving for championships, and do it in the SEC, and do it at a second location, i.e. Utah, Florida, Ohio State, or i.e. Michigan State, LSU, Alabama for Nick Saban. That could be what Jimbo Fisher is chasing. College football, immortality, and legacy at Texas A&M. Mark Rogers TV on college football. I invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel for what we consider to be the best analysis consistently in college football, because we don't buy into the group mindset of the national media and the national mindset. So we challenge you. We invite you to challenge us. We bring on the best bloggers and broadcasters and writers in the industry to help us out as well. So we will see you next time. Would love to hear your comments on Jimbo Fisher to Texas A&M.